On January the 30th, 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed the Chancellor of Germany. Over the coming months, he grew in power and became a dictator. He saw himself as king of the world.
What Nazism was trying to achieve was basically creating a political religion. And that's an incredibly powerful thing. No one has really created a political religion before this point in quite the same way.
If you look at Nazism, if you look at all of its elements holistically, you can't but come to the conclusion that there's something very religious about it. And by that I mean it had beliefs, it had a central figure, it had an idea for how you would reach salvation, it had a mission, it had dogma, it had imagery. You only have to think of the cathedrals of light at Nuremberg built by Speer, of the hypnotic chanting and marching, of the adulation towards this one Christ-like figure, which is how Hitler monstrously liked to present himself. So it should be seen as an ideology, but with absolute cult wrapping around it.
What he strove to do was to replace organized religion in Germany with a new Nazi religion, that Jesus would be an Aryan, that instead of the Bible there would be Mein Kampf, and that instead of the crucifix there would be the swastika.
German expansion throughout Europe began in 1938 with the annexation of Austria, and then continued with the occupation of Czechoslovakia in 1939. At the same time, Hitler's number two, Heinrich Himmler, was expanding his knowledge of the occult. He was convinced the Nazis could achieve great victories by harnessing the powers of the relics.
Several of the other Nazis in the hierarchy did lean towards the occult, but mainly, of course, it was Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, who had this glorified idea of how the chivalric ideal of the medieval times could somehow be channeled through him and his henchmen, but he was completely bonkers.
The Nazis were systematically looting Europe of all of the ancient holy relics that they could. But if you think about it from his perspective, churches in Europe at this time period had a lot of power and persuasion over the local population. By taking the most sacred things, you're taking the power and the influence and essentially kind of ripping the heart out of it. He wanted the churches to be dictated by him, the new religion, the new empire, Hitler's empire, Hitler's religion.
Hitler had an idea for after the war, he was going to have this sort of palatial museum, which would be the best and biggest museum in the world, and would have the best art in it. So he basically sent his stormtroopers out to bring that art back to Germany.
Today, Nuremberg has moved on from its troubled past. But the crumbling and decaying remains of the Nazi Party rally grounds still evoke memories of the barbaric regime that constructed them, a regime for whom awe and spectacle was key to its survival.
It's an amazing feeling to be here for the very first time at the Nazi rally grounds in Nuremberg. If you can imagine tens of thousands of people gathered here during 6 enormous rallies between 1933 and 1938. This is the Zeppelin field. And over here on this grandstand is where Hitler would have given his most famous speeches.
But as Hitler stood on the podium at Nuremberg, promising an empire to last 1,000 years, he also looked to the past to help secure it.
There are a couple of ideas about why Hitler wanted to possess the crown jewels so badly, particularly the Spear of Destiny. The more accepted theory is its symbolic value, that it would symbolically link him to all of the past Germanic kings, the Holy Roman emperors, and he saw himself as the latter-day version of them, a new incarnation for the Third Reich. But then there are the more exotic theories that may posit, and it's entirely plausible that Hitler would have believed this, that some of these holy relics, particularly the Spear of Destiny, might have granted the owner some sort of superhuman powers. In fact, the legend goes that the Spear of Destiny, if it's carried in battle, whoever carries it can't lose. And We know that Hitler and Himmler were researching things that would support the war effort for supernatural means as well. So it's entirely plausible to believe that Hitler thought, hedging his bets, that possession of the Spear of Destiny might have helped from a military standpoint as well.
The Holy Lance, or Spear of Destiny, was initially kept in Nuremberg together with other priceless pieces, which comprised the imperial regalia, or German crown jewels. But as the tide of war turned against the Nazis, thoughts soon turned to hiding their precious relics.
While we do have a sense of certain specific items that we are searching for, and there are people out there all the time trying to recover them, we really don't know the true magnitude of what's missing, and don't even know in some respects what we should be looking for.
Many of these artworks that are considered still missing are actually being actively traded through black market networks, and it's become even easier to do so now with the internet and the deep web. And there are people who fetishize some of these artifacts and trade in them as commodities, and that goes on every day.
There are many existing commissions in Europe and in the United States and Canada to try to repatriate a lot of these pieces as they're found. Some of them eventually wound up in state and local museums and have been relocated to the families from whence they were stolen. But many of them still reside probably in private collections or remain underground, maybe never to be found.